Okay, we're here today with Steve Scorfina. And just a quick brag, your original guitar player for REO Speedwagon and Pavlov's dog for a while, jammed with Michael McDonald, St. Louis guitar player. Welcome to the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm proud to know Mr. Jimmy Tebeau is all I can say.
It's great having you down here at the Lake of the Ozarks, here at the Dam Radio Station Studio. It's good to be back in here. So we want to know some stories. Like, now, you were the original guitar player for REO Speedwagon, right?
I joined them in early 1969, and they had heard I wrote songs, and that at that point, which was over like 53 or 4 years ago or something like that, I was a pretty hot guitar player back then. Now every guitar player in the world plays so unbelievable. And they heard I wrote songs, and they were a cover band in Champaign, Illinois, and they wanted me to join the band to help them become an original band. So I moved up to Champaign and joined them. They did have a guitar player before me named Bill Fiorio, who was an excellent guitar player, but he was like more of a jazzy type guy, real technical guy. And honestly, I grew up in North St. Louis, and I knew how to play Albert King licks, Chuck Berry licks, and Ike Turner licks. That was the extent of my knowledge on the guitar. So but it worked. We were like a real hardcore rock and roll band. And when I joined the group, I had just got out of being drafted. And the only thing I cared about, what I was passionate about, of course I was passionate about music, that's number one, but was stopping the war in Vietnam. So when Irving Azoff was our manager, and he called me up and asked me if I would come up and audition for the band. Oh, this is a good story. And I told him yes, but I don't really care about what music we play as long as we do things to stop the war in Vietnam, which ultimately that is what got them the record deal. We played a bunch of Stop the War moratoriums. One was in Chicago, and there was 60,000 people there, and it was in Daley Plaza under the Picasso, and it was on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Huntley Brinkley News Report comes on. They go, this political rock band, REO Speedwagon, played across from Mayor Daley and gave him a headache today. And people don't know that because they think of them as being this pop band with all these ballads and stuff. But we were more like the MC5. We were nuts and crazy and totally rocked out.
So we're talking 1969, 1970?
1969. I played with them through 1969 to right before 1971. So 1970.
So a couple years.
Yeah, I played with them. And they were a hard-working band. I mean, that's the first time I left home, and I was 19. And so I got my education. I tell everybody I went to college because I went to Champaign, and I got my education, which I really did get a good education. Those guys played 7 nights a week, and we would play in Carbondale, then we'd play in Champaign, then we'd go over to Indiana, then we'd go up to Wisconsin. And the biggest, we'd always play, at least once a month, we'd play on Rush Street in Chicago. So, and I played with some pretty incredible bands, like the band Zephyr, which was Tommy Boland's first band. We would play at a club called Beavers and it was club. We'd start playing at 9 o'clock, and we would play an hour, and then Zephyr would play an hour. Then we would play an hour. Then they'd play an hour, and we'd start at 9 o'clock, and we'd get out of the club at like 6 or 7 in the morning. So that was, I had a pretty cool thing going on right then.
So at that point, it was a lot of cover tunes and then some original songs.
When I got in the group, they were playing all cover tunes
Under the name REO
under
Speedwagon.
the name REO Speedwagon.
Wow.
And then I wrote like 3 or 4 songs, and we recorded them at a studio called Golden Voice Studio in Pekin, Illinois. And I wrote their first 45 called Gypsy Woman's Passion. And there's actually a song that never got on an album called Sweet Lucille. But it's on, YouTube and stuff. You can see it, and it's got pictures of all those wars. They're like a time capsule. It's actually on my 70th birthday, this guy sends me about 25 pictures. He was the photographer of the U of I, and he had come to all of our gigs and taken all these pictures. And like one of them, we were playing on the quadrangle at the U of I, and when we got done playing, the crowd rushed out into the town, and there was like riots and stuff, and they brought the National Guard out and put the town under curfew and stuff. So the start of REO Speedwagon is really different than what people know. It's like totally different than when they think of REO Speedwagon, they think of, I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend. We weren't like that at all. And so there, bands have problems. There's always drama. And I knew for a fact I wouldn't survive because I have a very addictive personality. And there was all this drama going on. So I quit the group after we got a record deal. And I did call up Gary Richrath, and because I knew he would come see us play. And I knew his band Feather Train had just broken up. And I said, man, 2 weeks I'm going to be gone. And so he was there. And that was his life's work, actually. And so all I can say, I don't want to get off the subject, but about 6 months ago, I get a call from them, and they say, we want you to come back. We're playing our final concert ever after 50-something years. And it's going to be at the State Farm Center in Champaign, Illinois.
That's a big venue. That's like 8,000 people or something?
How many people do you think? 12,000 people.
12,000,
were
okay.
there.
Yeah.
And it was great. My son came up, and for some reason, there's this, the locker rooms or the dressing rooms and stuff. They gave the bands all the smaller locker rooms. For some reason, they gave me the coach's locker room. And my son came up with one of his friends that's a big sports guy, and I had the coach's locker room. And he goes, oh my God, I'm in the coach's locker room right now. But it was like magic. It was like a big love fest. It was just every person that came and all the people that were there. I mean, you might think that they might have been not too happy with me since I quit the band, but they just opened their arms, and it was a beautiful thing.
Well, they were embracing the whole history of the band.
Yeah.
Which now that I've met you and dug into it more, like even after a while, Gary Richrath quit the band, and another guy replaced him and did 20 years or whatever. Yeah, which I
David
saw
Amato.
that.
Well, you know what? I opened up for them at the Peabody in St. Louis. I was a special guest with Danny Liston from Mama's Pride, and we opened up for REO. What was it, about 6 years ago, I think it was. And it was like a month after Gary had passed away. And they introduced me. I walked on stage, and I was going to play an Allman Brothers song, Trouble No More. And I said, 1 second. And I said, I want to play some licks for my friend Gary Richrath. and I played a bunch of licks. And it was another magic moment in life that I will always remember. And so that's...
So you
But,
were...
I was going to tell you, I met David Amato, and she was taking pictures. And so there's these pictures and it's of me and David Amato. In between us, there was all these orbs floating in between us, like Gary was in between us. I'll have to show you the pictures sometime, and you'll go, wow, that's pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
Just...
I guess towards the end, REO Speedwagon was Bruce and then Kevin Cronin. And then it seemed like...
The only original member that was left from when I was in the band was Neil Dowdy. And that was really cool because Neil brought his mom and dad out to see me. He was so excited about his mom and dad because they remembered me and stuff from the very beginning. And when I did play with them, the first thing I said, Neil, how's your mom and dad? And he goes, oh, man, they passed away since the last time I talked to you, which is sad. But it's part of life, And so, and the other cool thing, and I'm a Legacy member. They have posters with me and Mike Murphy and the original guys. So me, Terry Luttrell, and Mike Murphy, Neil Dowdy, Alan Gratzer, Gary Richraff are on the poster, and I'm officially a Legacy member.
Wow!
So hopefully, if they get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'll get to go in with them. They've let me know that I would be, and that was something. It's like, really? I mean, it's something I never seen coming. I mean, how can you imagine something like that after 50 years? Just...
Well, it's been a long legacy.
Yeah.
So the band used to do a couple hundred shows a year as a cover band in the late 60s and 70s.
They were already established as a bar cover band. We would play Bonaparte's Retreats and Merlin's and I can't think of the name of the city right now. The college town in Carbondale. That's it. You got it.
Yeah, I played there.
And then we come up and play the Red Lion in Champaign. And then we go up to play Beavers in Chicago. And then we go someplace in Wisconsin. Then we go to Bloomington, Indiana.
Oh, at the Bluebird, maybe? Or back there?
Where did we play? I think... No, and we would... I remember my first gig with them was in Indianapolis, and I was first time ever away from home, and it was really exciting playing with my new band and stuff.
What kind of material were you guys playing back then? The top 40 hits at the time?
To be honest,
Ike Turner?
to be honest, one of the first questions, they said, well, we need to play 4 hours. Do you know any Rolling Stones songs? And I had just worked out Sympathy for the Devil. So they said, well, let's learn that. And so we would end with Sympathy for the Devil. And that always would bring the house down. The crowd would jump up and go crazy. And that's kind of the song that launched them into another place. And it was the only song I sang with them.
Oh, I was going to say, you got to sing it, though, right?
Yeah, I got to sing that one song. And and we did some Led Zeppelin songs. And, boy, I was talking to Terry Luttrell about that. And I said, man, I know we played 4 hours, but I can only remember like 3 or 4 of the songs that we played. And he goes, I can't remember either. But I know we played night after night. Then we played 4-hour gigs, so we had to know more than like 10 songs or something.
A lot of gigs for years were 9 to 1, 9 to 1.
9 to 1, yeah. And
three sets, short break.
The Doors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did some Doors songs. And what else did we do? Well, and some other Rollins. And we did Chuck Berry songs, like Johnny Be Good, Little Queenie. Those are just the few that I remember, just...
And then people started writing songs, bringing in some originals?
Yeah, me and Terry started writing songs, and we went into that studio and did demos, and when we played those big Stop the War moratoriums, we had demos to show to the corporations and record companies that got interested in us. So it worked out good, just because we had something to show other than just the fact that people were really getting excited about us. And, I should go back to the very beginning of my career. I lived on a street in Ferguson called High Mount in Forestwood. And the guy that lived about 5 houses away from me was a guy named Michael McDonald.
Oh.
And he was in grade school, and I was in junior.
Wait, Michael McDonald, the Doobie Brothers
Of the
guy.
Doobie Brothers and his own fame.
Who's from St. Louis originally.
Probably one of the most famous singers of the 20th century, I would say. And so we started playing together. We had a band called Mike and the Majestics. He was 11 and I was 13. And all my friends are going, why are you playing with that grade school kid? And at that time in his life, you knew he was going to be one of the top singers in the world, even when he was 11 years old. And he didn't play the keyboards then. How we started was first I got together with him, and he played tenor banjo, and I played guitar. And his dad was an Irish tenor, like a vaudeville act. And his dad would play for the Mayor Cervantes, and play at all these Irish pubs, and we'd back him up, and he'd sing songs like Ain't She Sweet and Danny Boy and Ma, She's Making Eyes at Me, and Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey. So I tell everybody I started in vaudeville, which is really the truth, and then we had a band. They were actually with us all the time, but a lot of those things I did with just Mike at the Irish pubs and stuff. And so that was like 1963. So I'm really showing my age.
So your first band was with Michael McDonald?
Yes, he was 11, I was 13.
Because he was a neighbor kind of thing.
Because he was a neighbor, yeah.
Wow.
And on the holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving, we would play at my house for all the relatives, and then we'd go to his house and play for all the relatives. And his dad would sing and stuff. So that's how I got my start. So by the time I was 16, I was already kind of like a seasoned musician, or I wasn't scared to be on stage. And like many musicians, like if you would have asked me to talk to a girl or get in front of a class and give a speech, I couldn't do it because, I was so shy and stuff. Then after I got the guitar, my personality got established. I don't know about you, but I saw Elvis on what's the show on Sunday nights, the Ed Sullivan Show, doing Hound Dog, and I said, Dad, I got to get one of them guitars. And that was what changed my life, and that's all I've done since then. A long time.
That's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
So Michael McDonald, the REO Speedwagon at age 19, but somewhere in there was a band called Pavlov's Dog.
Well, that was after REO.
Okay.
That was about 4 years. I'll get into this story. I've told it before on podcasts, but I'll tell it again. So I decided I was going to quit REO Speedwagon, and I had this girlfriend. She was an artist, and she lived outside of Rockford, Illinois. Her dad owned this big farm, and I thought, well, I'm going to become a pot farmer and not play music for a while. So I moved up to this farm outside it was actually Belvedere, which is right next to Rockford. And I planted all these plants along the fence line. And her dad came and sprayed them and killed them all and stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing. And so then I was like, driving a tractor for him. And, he had 9,600 acres. So you would start here at about 1 o'clock, and the tractor went about 2.5 miles an hour. And by the time you got to the other side of the field to turn around and come back, an hour and a half had passed. And this was back, you didn't have these fancy cabs and stuff. This was a tractor where it's drizzling and raining on you and stuff. Finally, I said, okay, this farming ain't for me, and my plans to become a pot farmer didn't work out. So, and I got a phone call from Michael Safran. And he was the drummer of Pavlov's Dog. And he said, you want to come down? I got a house gig at the Chase Park Plaza. And I said, well, yeah, I'll do anything to get off of this tractor. And so I moved back home to St. Louis. And interesting story, it's a Blues Brother type story. I played the first 2 weeks, and I'm supposed to get my check for like $375. And the manager of the band goes, well, you owe the band like $275. And so I had been buying girls drinks, and I didn't realize I had to pay for them. I thought they were on the house.
You were running a tab.
So I was running the tab. So my first 2 weeks in the band, I had to pay. And I actually got in a fist fight with the manager, Bob Safran. But so I've done some stupid things in my life. But I've done some smart things too,
So Pavlov's Dog recorded a few different albums.
We recorded 3 records. We started off on ABC Records, and our manager, who was a super con man, Ron Powell was his name, he promoted Panther Productions. There was 2 companies that did concerts in St. Louis, Contemporary and Panther Productions. And he got us the biggest deal in the history of rock and roll. It was like $650,000. And we were on ABC, and the president of ABC somehow got into it and left the company. And the rest of the people that worked for ABC didn't like us at all. We were like a prog rock group with a very strange sounding singer. So somehow Ron got them to trade us, and we got an additional $650,000 to CBS. And our album, it's the only time it ever happened in history, came out on 2 labels at the same time. The same album. It has different covers. And the ABC copy is a real collector's item. Some people pay a bunch of money for it and stuff.
Wow.
And it was in the Guinness's Book of World Records for an unknown band, the highest amount paid. And we never made a penny because the business was so screwed up, and our manager stole every penny that we ever made, So everybody thought I was this big rock star, and I was like, where am I going to live now? I don't have no money, But so I've had a pretty interesting career in life, Just and then a couple of other things that I did. I played with another CBS group called Gulliver, and this was, I think, 1982 or 3, and that was when punk was coming in. And I lived down in LA, and we worked for about 6 months recording this rock opera called Space Age Hobo. And it was great, but no record companies were interested in signing a classic rock band at that time. So, and I hate to say this, but I had a real attitude about punk rock at that time, because here we worked for so long and so hard to get a deal and had a great product, but we couldn't sell it because they all wanted these punk groups. So me and this other guy in the band went down to Sunset Strip and got in a fight with a bunch of the punk bands and stuff. That's really stupid. I should be ashamed of myself of even telling that story. But I actually learned to really love punk and the energy and the feel of it and what it was about, the anger and all that stuff. But at the time I had a real chip on my shoulder about it.
So then in Pavlov's Dog, you did one record with them?
No, we did 3 records.
3 records with ABC, CBS?
Well, we did 3 records with CBS, and we did the same record with ABC.
In the beginning,
Well,
CBS is pretty big, so you probably did, and that was a 2 or 3 year period?
Yeah, we recorded at CBS Studios in New York where everybody from Benny Goodman to John Coltrane we recorded in the studio where Bruce Springsteen recorded Born to Run.
Oh, shit.
And he was there for like almost a year recording that, and we were the group that came in after him.
That's something.
And then the second record we recorded at the record plant, which is where Jimi Hendrix and all these people recorded. So that was a real interest. When I seen the Bruce Springsteen movie that just came out, oh my God, all these memories just flowed back to me. Sitting in that studio and all this crazy stuff it struck home. And my son took me to see it. And for my birthday a few weeks ago, he bought me the Nebraska record on that real high-grade Graham vinyl and stuff. And unfortunately, I haven't listened to it yet, but maybe when I get back to St. Louis from being down here in southern Missouri, I'll get it on the record player and listen to it.
So 3 albums over a 2 or 3 year period, and they've sold 100,000 units anyway?
Well, I have a platinum record from Australia and New Zealand, a double platinum, and which I never even think about, really. But it is a pretty big deal, and I've never been. See, our manager, once he got his hands on the money, he wanted to do everything he could to break up the band, because he was like doing all kinds of illegal things, like bringing drugs into the country, buying race horses and promoting other concert tours and making money off the money that was supposed to be our money. So we were asked to be the first band to go behind the Iron Curtain and play in Moscow. But it would have cost a whole lot of money. We were a 7-piece band, and we had 4 people on our road crew. We had Mellotron, B3. It would have cost a fortune to send us over there to do it, and that would have taken away from his money, so he declined the offer. Oh. And the guy that took it was Elton John. And Elton John's career was kind of faltering, and he claims that when he went to play behind the Iron Curtain, that brought his career back up and kept him alive. And then he became this absolute superstar that he became. So we were mismanaged, as bad as you can be And I don't want to sound negative or something, but Pavlov's Dog in the beginning was as magic and the most incredible band you ever heard. We had this crazy violinist, Siegfried Carver. Oh, he was so amazing. And it was just a phenomenal band. But the record company and the management just destroyed the band. They assigned us to producers. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to get too negative on it, because in the beginning it was exceptional. There's been 2 bands that I've been in that when I first played with them, the very second I played with them, I knew they were going to make it. One was REO Speedwagon, and one was Pavlov's Dog. I mean, it was just like in my mind, I knew, yeah, this is it. This can do it. And they both did do it, you know.
Well, you probably played a lot of shows with Pavlov's dog.
Oh yeah, we
New
toured.
York,
Yeah,
East
we
Coast,
toured
West
all
Coast.
over the country and all over Canada. I loved playing. We did about 5 tours across Canada, and that was really cool. We played, we would play Montreal and Toronto, and then we'd come across to Calgary. And but I remember this one trip. We talking about the management again. We were with the Electric Light Orchestra,
ELO.
opening up for them, and it was set up for them to fly to the gigs, but we would have to drive, and we had this VW bus in a car for a 7-piece band and a Ryder truck. So we would be in Montreal, and we'd have to get off stage, get in the vehicle, and drive all the way to some place like Calgary, all the way across Canada. It was really, paying my dues. But it was still great. And to see Canada, I got to see the Aurora Borealis and mooses and all kinds of cool things.
And now these days you live in St. Charles,
I
Missouri.
live in St. Charles, that's correct.
And that's where we ran into you at Redfish Bluefish. I was there for a Jeremiah Johnson show, and you happened to be there too.
Yeah, I seen you, and I had talked to you one time before that. And I thought, I got to go say hi to you. And I'm really glad that I did. Because then the week later, we played a gig together, and it was a total blast. And I really enjoyed playing with the Swag. It was, and that's my neighborhood. So we're going to play there again.
Yep.
On Valentine's Day, which happens to be the Mardi Gras day too. And my mom was from the French Quarters, and when she passed away, all of a sudden all these New Orleans songs started pouring out of me. So I can't wait to show you some of these Mardi Gras songs, and hopefully we can play a few of them that night.
Well, I think it's cool that you're still playing music. I've been following you on Facebook, and then I was so happy when I saw that you got invited to play the REO Speedwagon grand finale. Here
What
it is.
a trip that was. I mean, holy mackerel.
And then Bruce, the bass player, pretty much put that together.
Yes, he did.
Was he the bass player when you were in the group?
No, Greg Philbin was the bass player.
Well, that's cool that Bruce still called you in.
But I knew Bruce. He was in a band with Gary called Feather Train. And I would go, the big club was the Red Lion. And if I was off and they were playing there, I'd be there to watch them. And if they were off and I was playing there, they'd be there to see us. And so I knew Bruce. And when I seen Bruce, first thing I said to him, I said, man, I don't know how to show you gratitude for inviting me to do this. And he just looked at me and he said, I remember.
Wow.
And so how cool is that? And him and his wife are really good people. I mean, really, really good people. Just like I'm sure you are. You can tell people and where their hearts are and stuff.
Yeah, I follow Bruce on Facebook as well, and he posts a lot of personal stuff up there, like Christmas Day. It's him and his wife in front of the Christmas trees.
Yeah.
Which is, he knows it's a lot of fans, but he's
his
like,
wife is great. She has a lot to do with Disneyland, and she's got Minnie Mouse tattooed on her back and Mickey Mouse and all this, and so they always go down there and they go on the Disney cruises and stuff. And it was neat. He had his son come up and play on, which I think is the best REO Speedwagon song, Back on the Road Again. That's always been my favorite because it just drives and has a feel. And it reminds me of being 19 and joining the band and all of a sudden playing 7 nights a week, not having time to think even, and so that was really a trip. That's all I can say. It was, it was something I never saw coming, and holy cow, I was blessed, it's all I can say. Last year was a good year. That happened. I wound up writing a bunch of songs that I'm really proud of, and my daughter informed me she's going to have a baby, so I'm going to be a grandpa.
Oh boy, congratulations.
So, and I got a beautiful, beautiful girl that loves me to death, and I got 2 kids that are grown up and doing great. So
Awesome.
and what more? Well, and I also got a big collection of really cool guitars.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, that's cool. And we're and moving forward, you're gonna be doing a few more shows with the Schwag, and then what is there any other projects that you've been working on?
Well, I got really sick during COVID, and I had like 3 different. I had a group called Soul Steel and one called Chrome and Steel, and then I had a duo with a guy, and they all kind of fell apart because all the gigs, there was no gigs, and it was hard to keep anything together. Plus, I was so sick, I couldn't even try. So I got to explain something. When I moved to Champaign, Illinois, I had to find a place to live. And Irving goes, well, I got a friend, and you could have the apartment at his house. And it was in a basement on Green Street. And his person he's talking about was Dan Fogelberg.
What?
So I lived in a house for about 6 months with Dan Fogelberg.
Wow.
And that was back before they had cell phones and stuff. And there was a phone booth on the corner. So this is how I got to know him. He was from Peoria, and I was from St. Louis. And so we were constantly going out to the phone booth to call our mom and dads or girlfriends and stuff. And so sometimes I'd be out there, and I always carried my guitar with me. Sometimes he'd come out and have his guitar, and he'd show me songs. And on his first album, there's a song called Stars. And he showed me that song at the phone booth. And there's a verse in it that goes, spend my dimes on phones, trying just to call, but you don't answer. And it's a great song. And I believe I was probably the first person ever to hear that song, because he said, I just wrote this song and I want to show it to you. And so, yeah, he was so talented. You know, I kind of look at him and Mike McDonald. First band I had Mike McDonald singing in. And then I lived with Dan Fogelberg. Those guys are like the standard, the top of the pyramid. And I always thought, well, okay, voices are a God-given thing. And I'm a guitar player. So I never even tried to sing seriously until I was like over 50 years old. I did sing Sympathy for the Devil, but I just kind of screamed through it, you know. So, because I never thought I was a singer, because of the guys I had around me. Just think of those 2 voices. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if there's any better. Maybe Stevie Wonder or somebody like that.
And in Pavlov's Dog, you were there was 2 guitarists. You were one of the 2 guitarists.
Well, I was the lead guitarist, and I did play all the parts on the records, all the rhythm and acoustic parts. And at that time, David Surkamp was the lead singer, and he had a very unusual, unique voice. And I thought, I always shot for having something that was completely artistically unique. And we were like a prog rock group. We had a violinist that taught me how to play Vivaldi stuff and all this crazy stuff, and Irish and Scottish stuff from the 12th century and stuff. He was like my mentor. And I thought that was going to be the thing that would get us a record deal. And it was part of what got us a record deal. And the other part of it was the music was so exceptional, you know. And so that was a big part of us getting a deal, and it was also a part of us failing, you know. Just
Well, the trials and tribulations, there's a lot of rock and roll stories, and not all of them have good endings, but they have great journeys.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great journey. Most of it was a great journey. I'll leave it at that.
So you guys weren't doing any drugs at all back then, were you?
No,
I didn't think so. Just
I think a couple of the guys in the band, when we flew up to sign our deal, were tripping on LSD. I wasn't, but they were. I had given that up a few years before that because I said, man, I don't think the human mind is meant to digest. Well, I feel like I'm a real spiritual guy, and every time I tripped, I went into an outer body experience that was very spiritual and stuff. And I thought, I just don't know if people are meant to do that and understand what's going on in life and stuff. So I quit anything like that probably around 1971 or so.
There's a lot of weed smoking, though, probably still.
Back then in the 60s and stuff,
Well, you hear some of these bands get really tweaked out on blow.
Yeah, that was more of what was going on. Quaaludes and cocaine and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I should be ashamed to say that publicly, but it is what it is. Yeah, I try to be honest when I tell stories, and document them as they are.
That's well, I've got a colorful history too.
I know you do.
I'm officially an outlaw musician.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about what we're going to call the band, and I was thinking of the Ozark Pistol Whippers. What do you think about that?
I don't know. That implies violence.
It does, and I knew that you were going to say that before I even told you that. But I was thinking about ideas.
More drug-related crimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would never think that you would ever commit any kind of crime other than trying to enjoy yourself with a lot of people.
Yeah, they put
and
me
celebrate life,
Oh, yeah, I'm a happy guy. They put me in a federal prison camp, which didn't even have a fence around it, and the doors didn't lock. I was in there with Ponzi scheme guys.
That's great. I mean...
And I got up pretty quick, but it still sucked.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say who it was, but I was talking to this big-time lawyer, Republican guy, Friday night, and I said, well, I'm going to go down and see Jimmy Tebeau. He goes, oh, man, that was a real setup when he got busted.
Oh, he knew about it?
Yeah, he knew about it and
stuff.
stuff.
Wow. Well, I had Scott Rosenblum as an attorney.
Yeah. He goes, it was all a setup.
It was. They just wanted the land. Yeah. Don't get me started.
Okay.
I've done a 2-hour show in here on it
And
before.
I was like, well, I don't know the story, but I'm sure it was.
Oh, I could tell it to you. Yeah. But my first show in here was that. I was getting interviewed for that, and we talked about it for 2 hours because it was a raw deal. But it set me up as being an outlaw musician. But
well, I was kind of an outlaw myself.
That's what I was thinking.
And the way I look at it is, I never did anything to harm anybody, but that drug-related thing was, especially back in the 60s, you seen the Beatles and all this stuff, and you were trying to enlighten your mind in a positive fashion, at least in my book. And but it's kind of like living a little bit outside of the law, a little dangerous. And so I'm kind of known for that, too. I hate to say.
That's why part of the reason we're getting along.
I think so.
That's cool. And then you're coming out to the campground. You're going to spend a few nights. We're going to work on some songs, play some songs down by the river.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward to
Well, you're still
that.
writing songs.
Man.
You just can't stop, can you?
No, and it's weird. I don't know. In life, sometimes you got these writer's blocks and stuff, and you're trying so hard to write something because some record company wants you to be a success. And I got no record company or nothing. But all of a sudden, the faucet just opened up, and songs started coming out. And it just feels really good. It's especially since I'm as old as I am. And I have no reason to think that I'm going to have this great new success or anything. But I just love my songs, and I think that something really good's going to happen with them. You know, I'll tell you another quick story. So, obviously, since I started playing with Mike McDonald when he was 11, and we're still good friends, I hadn't seen him for about 15 years. And I said, Mike, how do you keep writing all these unbelievable songs, one after another? How do you do that? And he goes, well, I get up every morning and I sit down and I write something. And it might be a total piece of shit, or it might be great, but I write it and I record it on a little tape recorder and I log it and I write down the lyrics. And then when the time rolls around where we have to have something to show, I've got this big backlog of things I've worked on. So I kind of took that attitude and I try to write every day, which I think is great advice for anybody, for any kid that's wanting to get into the business. But the best advice is learn the business of music and don't do like I did. You know, learn the business of music so that you get your due at the end of the line, you know.
Yeah, it seems like in the music industry, musical ability is not like half the game, if even half, you know.
I don't even know if it's that, you know. But it is everything.
Well, it's marketing, it's the business of it, it's you know, we're making these sounds and putting them, recording them, trying to get people to go listen to them. I've been thinking about it in a different way, especially hanging out with you. It's like, oh, we could write this, or we could, you know, because
let's do it.
When you sat in with the band,
I thought it sounded great.
Was
I sat in with a lot of people. I thought you guys, some things have chemistry and some things don't have chemistry. I thought we had chemistry.
Oh, it sounded great. And those, you did 4 songs with the band, and you wrote those 4 songs?
I did.
Okay, that's what I thought. And we rehearsed earlier that day 3 of them, but then the crowd was going nuts. So you're like, we did another one, and it was unrehearsed, and I thought that one was great.
Well, that was great. My mom was born and raised in the French Quarters, and after Mike and the Majestics, I had this really popular English invasion band in St. Louis called The Good Feelin', which was a big-time local band. And I asked her to make some clothes for us. And she went out and bought all this crazy fabric. And I made like paisley pants and vests. And then we covered, each of us had our own separate outfit. And then we covered our amps with the same material that our outfits were. That's why I wrote that song, My Mama Dressed Me Like. I was thinking about my mom after she passed away. I wrote that song that I played with you called My Mama Dressed Me Like the Mardi Gras. Then I turned around and looked at you and I went, holy cow, that fits him perfect.
I had that ultimate Christmas outfit on with that had Christmas lights blinking. Man. I got so many comments on that. It inspired you to play that song.
It was great. It was great. It was great, you know. And so I hope that we can play and do a Mardi Gras thing.
Yeah.
So, and actually try to create something somewhere in some place where they don't have a Mardi Gras. Maybe like McDonald Dam. I don't know, you know? Or do they have a Mardi Gras thing down here?
Not too much. Some of the clubs do a few themes. You throw out some beads and that, but the big celebration is in Rio de Janeiro.
I guess.
And then the next biggest one is in New Orleans. And then the next biggest one is downtown St. Louis in the Soulard area. I think we should play some music in this town, too, you know, playing out around, because we got that amphitheater out there in Max Creek. And then we do some cannabis events in town, so we'll have to get you in on some of these other swag gigs as a special guest if you're having fun with it.
I would be so honored. You know, I'm probably been a hippie like a lot longer than you've been a hippie.
Yeah,
and
you
that's
got me beat.
saying a lot.
Yeah.
Me and Jimmy here are going to play a little song called Tell It to Diane. That you know me. Tell her I'm a good and decent man, but don't you tell her I get lonely. When you tell it to Diane, when you tell it to Diane, I tell her I quit gambling away my money. Tell her I quit drinking away my time. Tell her you saw me with another woman. Yeah, tell her she's beautiful and she's fine. Don't tell her about the blues I play in this barroom. Don't tell her about the trembling in my hands. Just tell her anything but the truth, my friend. When you tell it to Diane, when you tell it to Diane, now before you go, take my lucky silver dollar. Buy her a shot of Irish whiskey on me. But be careful when you look in those eyes. Say, look what they done to me. Oh, look what they done to me. If you're going to St. Louis, when you cross that Mississippi River bridge, just go on down to the levee. By the river where she lives. Was that okay?
That was good, yeah.
Steve Scorfina here in the studio today. Thanks for coming in, man. It's been a joy chatting with you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. That's all I can say.
Let's do it again sometime.
You bet.